One of our brethren some years ago spoke of the payment of tithing as fire insurance. Nonetheless, the word of the Lord is clear that those who do not keep the commandments and observe the laws of God shall be burned at the time of his coming. For that shall be a day of judgment, a day of sifting, a day of separating the good from the evil. I would venture a personal opinion that no event has occurred in all the history of the earth as dreadful as will be the day of the second coming, as fraught with the destructive forces of nature, as consequential for the nations of the earth, as terrible for the wicked, and as wonderful for the righteous.
Travis, my good soul. This morning, upon waking up, this video was on my mind. And I've done this video before. This is just a different presentation. So if you notice in this corner down here, there's a watermark. And it's been there for quite a while. And so there's your short answer in case you're going to bail and not believe and not listen to the video. That's the answer right there. It's been there the whole time. This morning, in fact, right now, that way. At the sun position at noonday is our moon. And it is there in conjunction with the star Regulus in Leo the Lion. And at 4 a.m. this morning, in its forehead, is the Leonid meteor showers. They just popped up on the screen on my Urim and Thummim. And so that's a significant sign. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the video topic at hand, because the Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1, sign in the heaven and the thing, or in the likeness of things on the earth. And not a single Mormon knows it, not a single Mormon believes it. And so here we go. Joseph Smith History, 1838 version, canonized, verse 40, we are told who our Christ is. It's the character described in Acts chapter 3, 22nd, 23rd verses. Joseph Smith says, he said that prophet was Christ. And that the day had not yet come when Mormons who would not hear his voice should be cut off from among the people. Remember, I already gave you the answer. It's there in the corner. And so we go to verse 19, because all Mormons are in defiance and anti-Semites, declaring Jesus is the Christ. So read Joseph's words. Verse 19. I was answered that I must join none of them. For they were all wrong. So you start your own version of it because it's wrong. And the personage, why doesn't he say the name Jesus? Does it have something to do with join none of them, they are all wrong? Who addressed me said that all their creeds, the first creed of Christianity, that created Christianity, because Christianity did not exist before this, 325 CE, the Council of Nicaea, ordered by Roman Emperor Constantine. All of the bishops were forced to gather and deny their religious beliefs. That was all different. They each took one scripture that was written by the Jews to claim that it was theirs and about their Christ. And not all of them were of Jesus. And they definitely didn't believe in Trinity, because Constantine had to resolve the issue, because not a single one of them could decide on the nature and character. They were in agreement that Jesus should be the name, but Constantine had to create a brand new word that still to this day only has one meaning, and all of Christianity gets it wrong. But if they generalize it to say Trinity, it means, by definition, because Constantine created it, and it's right there in the text of the creed itself. In case you're confused, you might have to learn Greek. But the English translation still makes it very blatantly obvious that Jesus, the newly formed idol god of Christianity, is not real. And so the Jewish scriptures were turned from prophecy of their Christ, who will come in the latter days, into literal history. And since they chose the name Jesus, the book of Jesus in the Old Testament is who their Christ is? Nope, they use the Greek version from the Gospels, not the Hebrew version, Joshua, as their Christ. And so, by turning the Gospels into literal history now, instead of a prophecy of the Jewish Christ of the latter days, they become anti-Semitic. They replaced the Jews. They're telling the Jews now how to interpret their own scripture, because the Jews are wrong. The Jewish authors don't know who their Christ is and who the name of their Christ is. They're wrong. Right, Joseph Smith? You're wrong. And so, yes, you're confused. Because right here at the beginning of the Joseph Smith history of 1838, Joseph Smith identifies who our enemy threat is. In case you don't go to the Joseph Smith papers to find out the actual name of the church as well. Because a certain person chose not to publish those particular revelations and forced the changes to be made and forged documents to reinforce the changes that they made. Because Section 115, spoken over the pulpit of conference by a certain false prophet, is a forged document. We know this because the name of the church was supposedly by Joseph Smith before he then wrote this history. However, you go to the Joseph Smith papers and you see that the original document and, well, it's for 116. I'm sure it would be for 115 too. I haven't checked that yet. But I have confirmed and established it as a fact, because we're going to talk about Oliver Cowdery, that the book that they used to show us was of faded ink. And then all of a sudden, the group of collections that are around 115 to 118, not 19, because 19 was published in 1844, are all in brand spanking new ink in comparison. Now, anybody familiar with Mark Hoffman? Forged documents, had to get the paper just right, had to get the ink just right to be dated to the right time period. Yeah. This is how you identify forgeries, is that they don't do it right. So yeah, in the Joseph Smith papers, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints revealed the actual name of our church and who changed it. Inserted by Willard Richards after Joseph Smith died. Originally, so yes, the evil disposed and designing persons to militate against the church. With what name? That's the enemy. In April 6, 1830, Joseph Smith with Oliver Cowdery and 4 others formed the Church of Christ. Oliver Cowdery knew the name. He agreed to it, along with the other 4. The Church of Christ. Notice there's a name missing. In 1834, 4 years after April 6th, 1830, Sidney Rigdon, in the Joseph Smith papers, in the minutes of the priesthood leaders, this was a priesthood leadership meeting, he raised his hand and said, "I propose we change the name of the church." And it was unanimously agreed upon. And Oliver Cowdery was in attendance at the meeting and was also in unanimous agreement to change the name from the Church of Christ to the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which is what it's supposed to be in the Joseph Smith history. But oops, Joseph Smith is wrong. Because they forged a document, section 115, to prove it needs to be changed. Joseph Smith doesn't know the name of his own church, doesn't know the name of his own Christ. So even though they didn't add in Jesus appeared, what do each and every single one of you missionaries, or who've been missionaries, and there's now 72,000 missionaries, what do you go and tell people when you tell them about the first vision? You give them the name of the abominable Christ. So, 1839, the very next year, after it's clear Joseph Smith did not change the name. He was framed by the enemy, evil disposed, designing persons militating against the church. So early on in that 1838, Oliver Cowdery was upset that Joseph Smith was taking the church in a different direction than the way he wanted it to go. He and Sidney Rigdon, and so Oliver Cowdery left. And then the evil disposed, designing persons militated against the church. Caused election fraud, cooed Joseph Smith's church, framed him and locked him up in Liberty Jail, so that a new president of the Quorum of the 12 Missionaries, with only the keys of Peter, ascended to the noonday position. Until Joseph Smith got out. And then in 1839, right around the time that Oliver Cowdery wrote his pamphlet, Defense, Joseph Smith condemns the 12 for what they did. Joseph Smith Papers. And again in 1840, July 19th, he reveals a whole lot more, identifies the evil disposed and designing persons who militated against him, and makes some prophecies about them. And so David Whitmer, during 1838, during this coup, was threatened by the group called the Danites, the evil disposed and designing persons who militated against Joseph's church. They were the missionaries. And they threatened David Whitmer to become a part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or get out, or they are going to murder him and his family. David Whitmer left and went to Oliver Cowdery and told him that Joseph Smith was coerced by Sidney Rigdon to change the name of the church. Joseph didn't change the name of the church. It was the Danites who again framed Joseph Smith by lying to David Whitmer, just like they did to Benjamin Franklin Johnson, who joined the church and in 1838 moved his family to Adam Ondi, Ammon. Section 116, forged document, fresh ink. And he was arrested immediately upon entering their land. Deny the Church of the Latter-day Saints. And Benjamin Franklin Johnson wrote in his journal, "I never denied the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." And he came to the valley and all is well in Zion. Right? Danite headquarters. And so, who then is our Christ? If it ain't Jesus, which should have been blatantly obvious to every Mormon who at least studied. Verse 17. Verse 16. I saw a pillar of light. Every single other Mormon but me memorized this, as I used dissociative memory. I saw a pillar of light exactly over my head above the brightness of the sun. The morning sun, right? Because, wow, it's just so bright. The evening sun? Setting sun? No, the sun at noonday. That's when the sun is the brightest. That's when it's the closest to the earth. And so here you have the two personages being described as the sun at noonday. And then we go to the second vision, because this is all literal history stuff, right? It's about Jesus, right? That's why I gave you an out to leave, because you don't believe. While thus in the act of calling upon God. Who? The sun at noonday. Who appears? I discovered a light appearing in my room, which continued to increase until the room was lighter than at, wait for it. So who appears to Joseph Smith? Verse 40, huh? Verse 40 from Acts chapter 3, 22 to 23 is the Jewish Christ. Did you ever bother to go to it? Because Joseph Smith says it's precisely as it stands. So you didn't go to it, did you? There can be no difference there, because Joseph Smith said cut off is the word for Mormons. No difference. And it shall come to pass that every Mormon who will not hear that prophet shall be destroyed from among the human race. Wow. And so the Jewish Christ. For Moses truly said unto the fathers, a prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren. So we understand that he's the Mormon Christ, so it's among the Mormons that he would be raised up unto, like unto me, Moses. This is the learning of the Jews. This is their Christ. It is not Jesus. Though yes, they use the name Jesus in numerous scriptures to prophesy about their Christ, a man like Moses, whom Joseph Smith is telling Mormons he will be raised up among you. And you don't watch my channel, you don't believe, you don't follow, and so you never get the connection to section 103, verse 16, talking about the latter days and the restoration of Zion. Therefore, I will raise up unto the Mormons a man who shall lead them like as Moses led the children of Israel. Because Mormons will be in bondage and need to be freed if they do what? Again, it's not cut off, is it? As precisely as it stands in the Acts. So Jesus also talks about this. They don't reference it here, obviously, because this would expose the church as a fraud. Jesus as a false idol god. Not the learning of the Jews. Wait a minute. That's in the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon is in the learning of the Jews, not the learning of the Christians. So when you get to Jesus, it's not about Jesus. Just like the Jews. They write stories. They have a character who is a man like Moses, and they give him a name. And it's never the name. Samson is the closest. Samson is Sun King. Sun at noonday, huh? And so where do we get that name from? What is his name? Section 107 tells us, shh. It's a sacred secret. But the Book of Mormon, likewise, along with this guy named Isaiah, tells us who he is. And Matthew's redactor is wrong. 2 Nephi, chapter 17, confirming that Matthew is wrong and needs to be translated correctly. Right? Verse 13, hear ye now, O house of David. The origin of the Jews, of Judah, the lion's whelp. Leo. Hey, that King David as a boy struck Goliath in a certain place. I hope I remember to put it in the video. I've got it there on the screen in the file, ready to put in first, so I don't forget. Even though this, with sunglasses, will be the thumbnail picture. Although maybe I could use it with the sign today, this morning. Therefore, verse 14, the Lord himself shall give you a conjunction in the heavens. A sign in the heavens, conjunction. Not a sign, so that whosoever seeketh after a sign denieth the faith and commits adultery. Not that definition of sign. This is a sign in the heavens. He's giving you the date for the arrival of the Christ of the Jews, whom Joseph Smith says is a Mormon. Behold, Virgo shall immaculately conceive in outer space. It's not real. And bear a son. Jupiter retrogrades for a pregnancy term. John Oliver's little clip last night was on abortion and how America is voting tomorrow. Except for me, the replacement for Sherry Swanson failed to do her job right. So I didn't get a ballot. But a great number of states are hoping to overthrow the overthrow of the 14th Amendment, Section 1. But not a single person is talking about it. They all talk about women's rights rather than the 14th Amendment. Section 1. Our government and constitution has been cooed. You're all being strung along as if there's hope. And you are deceived as to the form of government we have. Just like the name of the church. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. And so the deep state Dems should not be panicking you into thinking that your majority vote will overthrow and fix the problem. Democracy is the worst form of government. It fails once you reach a certain number of people. It only works for, like, say, a family unit. This is not a democracy. Go to your room. Works so well. And shall call his name God El Amen. Huh. Adamon Diamond? Does that have anything to do with it? Yeah, those bastards mocked Joseph. The language of the Egyptians. There's a phonetic match to the Paleo-Hebrew letters that form the word Amen, from Amenel, to the Egyptian, wait for it, sun god at noonday. Notice there is no Matthew quoting here, which by interpretation is God with us. So Joseph Smith also was plain and precious with you. Back in section 107 where he says, shh, don't reveal the name that Isaiah reveals. And Isaiah is the reverse of Jesus, by the way, in case you were wondering. I know you all were. Again, the duty of Joseph Smith, the president of the Church of the Latter-day Saints, since 1834. You know, the LDS Church by acronym. And so it is appropriate to use the LDS Church for the name of the church. Because it's an acronym. It's okay. But, quoting section 115 over the pulpit of conference, we are now told that the current Jesus of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is angry and offended with Joseph's name of Joseph's church, the Church of the Latter-day Saints. Yeah, no duh. Is to preside over the whole church. Wonder which keys he has. It's got to be Peter, right? You never bother to study, do you? You're not even listening. You gave up. And to be like unto Moses, the Jewish Christ. Joseph Smith declares himself to be the Christ of Mormons, but not the Latter-day Christ. because that's 2 Nephi chapter 3 that explains the differences between the two people. And so, Mormons, your Mormon Christ, whom you need to listen to, or you're going to be cut off or destroyed from among the human race. You know, like the Book of Mormon. How's the book end? Oh, everybody lives happily ever after because of the gospel that's been restored through Jesus. Are you sure you know how to read and comprehend what you read? It's about the utter destruction of the Nephites. And in case you're confused by that ending, they put in other stories of other people who, in the end, were utterly destroyed. You know, the Jaredites. And so the second vision of Lehi at the beginning of the Book of Mormon is an exact same pattern match for Joseph Smith's history. Second vision. Exactly. So it's the gospel of Jesus Christ restored. Talk about your false information. And so you will know him by certain gifts, so that you will not be deceived by a false Christ pushing Jesus on you. Because your actual Christ will demonstrate the gifts of seer, revelator, prophet. Travis, you skipped one. Just like in every single conference with what vote? What's this again? Translator of Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian. And in case you didn't know, those two languages are extinct. What Joseph Smith is revealing to you is that your Christ, so that you won't be deceived by a false Christ who will come, will decipher Paleo-Hebrew, will decipher the learning of the Egyptians in the language of the Egyptians, not the learning of the Greeks from the Rosetta Stone in the language of the Egyptians. In case you didn't know, Egyptian is not an alphabetical language. That's why. Greek is. Paleo-Hebrew is. And thus the difference. You will know him because he will decipher those two languages that are extinct. So I wonder if he has an academia.edu page where he demonstrates this for you. In case you don't go to his YouTube channel where you have to hearken to him or you'll be cut off or destroyed. What would that channel name be? Would he use any kind of watermark in the corner so that you won't be deceived by false idol god Jesus and the false prophet who promotes him with extortion threats of tithing to say the name Jesus? We can keep on going. Keep on going. 2 Nephi, chapter 3, verse 5. Joseph of Egypt truly saw our day, And he obtained a promise of the Lord that out of the fruit of his loins the Lord God would raise up a righteous branch unto Mormons, who will be Joseph Smith. I give you the name here in verse 15. Not the Messiah, the Mormon of the latter days in the learning of the Jews, the Jewish Christ, but a branch which was to be broken off, nevertheless to be remembered in the covenants of the Lord, that the Messiah should be made manifest unto Mormons in the latter days. So when is he coming to Mormons? Matthew tells us, gives us the day and the hour. Oops, a redactor is wrong that no man knows the day and the hour. Matthew chapter 2. Now, when the sun got at noonday, because that's what you're supposed to do with all the stories. You're supposed to have this understanding. And in chapter 1, he makes this very clear, plain, and precious. Quotes from Isaiah. Gives you the name. And then names him Jesus? He's hoping that you're not that dumb. But oops. So when Emmanuel was born, at Spica, the house of bread star of Virgo, from Isaiah. He's repeating it here. Of Utah, phonetically the same as Judah, the lion's whelp of Leo, a descendant of David, chapter 1, slew Goliath with seer stones in his forehead. Third eye. In the days of Herod, huh? What does the Book of Mormon say? Oh, the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah. And then goes on to give us that exact same sign, conjunction in the heavens. So is there any more details we can have other than Virgo and Jupiter? Why, yes, Travis, yes there is. I know the answer. Revelation chapter 12. I gave it to you in the beginning. It was a cheat. I was helping you out. Remember the change in the Joseph Smith translation? They knew. And so, in just Revelation chapter 12, we then have to move verse 5 to verse 3 to be a part of this sign, conjunction in the heavens. And it's 3 conjunctions in one. This is a once and only once sign conjunction. It has never happened before. It will never happen again. It happened, and it only happened this one time in all of existence, because everybody is used to be on stage for this event. And if you know anything about astronomy, which I guess they don't teach you in Utah, because it's science, then you were caught by surprise that there was a solar eclipse over Utah on the 14th of October this year. Just like there was in the 21st of August, 2017. That was Monson's birthday. Yeah, where was it? You'd only have to watch me, because I'm the only one who showed you where it was in the Urim and Thummim sign in the heavens. At the star Regis. You know, where the moon is right now. It's probably heading further away, but it'll take time. Yep, there in Leo. A solar eclipse. But this is not a solar eclipse. A woman, Virgo, clothed with the sun, middle of September to the middle of October, moon under her feet, 29.4 days. Upon her head, Leo the lion, 12 stars, not the 9 designated stars for Leo. So 3 planets out of the 5 visible planets. And Virgo, pregnant with number 4 planet, Jupiter, cried, travailing in birth, pain to be delivered. And now we go to verse 5. Virgo gives birth to Jupiter at the star Spica, the Bethlehem star, house of bread. In where? Utah. Who was to rule all nations who are going to be utterly destroyed, apparently. A king over no one. Because nobody listened. With a Book of Mormon, the iron rod is the word of God. And was caught up unto Saturn, the 5th visible planet, the father of Jupiter, and Ophiuchus, the designated throne of God. Sure enough, there it is. See, until I found the Joseph Smith translation that moves verse 5 to verse 3, I was still uncertain as to when this sign in the heaven was going to occur. I was having difficulty. And there it was in the Book of Mormon too. Yep. Because these other signs happened right after this one. A great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. Serpents. 7 crowns upon his head. Yep. On the 5th dark day of Hanukkah, 17 December 2017. And so, thanks to Monson dying, I figured out the next sign in the heavens. And his tail of the dragon, drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven. The quadranted meteor showers at the tail of Draco the dragon, the 3rd biggest meteor shower of the year. 3rd part. Stars from heaven. Falling stars. Leonids. Unless Mormons don't hearken to come out of Babylon, both the false church and the land, because the fall of the great and abominable church is upon us. This is the bicentennial year of the restoration of the gospel. Peace and happiness, all is well in Zion. Or the ending of the book. The day that shall burn as an oven, and they that come shall burn the Mormons. But I thought it was in Jerusalem with Jesus. You're still not listening? You're still listening, but not listening. So there you have it. And yes, I could keep on going, but we're at 50 minutes. It's enough time for me to bathe and shave and have breakfast. The Sara Lee bread, it does not last after 2 weeks. As there's it's backing up, so it's not the trash man. Got mold on it. I had to throw it away. So frustrating. Need to go grocery shopping again someday. And I guess before I have breakfast, I can add, to make this longer, the signs in the heavens for the solar eclipses. Because remember, it's the sun god at noonday. Solar eclipses are the angel standing in the sun at noonday. Revelation 19. That's the last year, the third day of darkness. Solar eclipses tell us the day and the hour. They tell us the location in outer space. For example, the one we had on the 14th of October was in Virgo at the Bethlehem star. The one in August, the first day of darkness. We just had the second day of darkness. And next year is the third day of darkness. Was in Leo for the first one. And next year, it'll be on the back of the white horse in Pisces. The 2 fishes and 5 loaves of bread. Yeah. And so, the house of bread, Bethlehem, for the first coming in the ministry, 23rd September 2017. I didn't say that, did I? And so, yes, the first day of darkness, also in the first year, to designate the first year of the latter days. And so it's confirmed throughout the stories. Even in Jesus, gives us the day and the hour. Remember that whole cross thing? Lifted up on the cross? Yeah, the Jewish author was giving you a date. Christians turned it into literal history. Had to rewrite history because the Romans didn't use crosses. Now all of a sudden, Romans used crosses, but they used the T instead to trick you as to the latter day events of which the Jewish Christ would come. Even Constantine knew it was a cross, not a T. As his Cairo sign in the heavens was it. The rho, coming from the Paleo-Hebrew, R, is the Egyptian flag symbol, meaning God. So God at the crossroads of the cross, which is the solar eclipse path on Earth. It tells you also where on Earth the events are to occur. Sign in the heavens in the likeness of things on the earth. Solar eclipses are a big deal in revealing dates, times, places, and in this regard, even the fuller name of the Mormon Christ. He who is from the crossroads of the sun god at noonday. And in case you hadn't caught on yet, Travis, God, Soul. That is my original name meaning. Morphed over time as God became good and soul became soul. It's the same English Druids who told the one guy who created the myth of St. Patrick to give his death date as his birth date, not the 23rd of September 2017. And there's other confirmations for that. It is an established fact. That's the birthday. And so Samson, likewise. Sun King. There are deaths. Thus, yeah. And so the first death is Leo, the lion. Solar eclipse in Leo. 21st of August. Second death, his first wife, burned with her dad by fire. Annular eclipse, not total solar eclipse. In Virgo, 14 October 2023. And then the final one of the lamb sacrificing in Aries constellation. Jupiter in Aries. But the solar eclipse, the destruction of the great and abominable church at the temple, Bruce, not building, destruction of the great and abominable church by 8 April 2024. Corresponding to Revelation 19. That's where the horse comes in. And so Joseph Smith knew this too. He got that Egyptian papyri. Named one of them the Book of Abraham, named the other the Book of Joseph. Sure, it had nothing to do with Ezekiel 37. And the key of who? You went to the Joseph Smith papers to know it's Nephi, not Moroni, right? So Doctrine and Covenants 27:5 is supposed to be changed to Nephi because Joseph made the change, not the Danites. In those papyrus scrolls, he did not finish. He didn't get to facsimile number 3. Let alone to all the rest of them in the Book of Joseph. And so the 3 that he used for publication, which President Richards took to England and made a pamphlet out of it, so that we would then have it under John Taylor, because Brigham wanted nothing to do with it. He doesn't want translator. That was your first clue, Mormons. Among many other clues. Like all of a sudden coming out with section 119 after Joseph is dead and saying this is now the law. Joseph Smith said it. Here it is. See? Ignore section 64. So now you have to practice priestcraft. Ignore the Book of Mormon. We are correcting the Book of Mormon. It's wrong. And an extortion threat. Protection racket. That the church was shut down for criminal operations by the United States of America, 1887 with the Edmunds Tucker Act. But they don't want you to know this. Shh. And so, yeah. There you have it. Facsimile number 1, 21st of August, 2017. Facsimile number 2, with the ring around the rosy, 14 October 2023. And then the wedding supper feast of the Lamb, the Christ. Princes become kings with a wedding at the Temple of Zion, Heliopolis. Although facsimile number 1 was at Kamambo. You'd have to have somebody who knows the learning of the Egyptians and the language of the Egyptians to point this out for you. But facsimile number 3 is a wedding. They're holding hands. So yes, there is an error. The bride is called the prince. And the prince is called the servant. But otherwise, Joseph Smith knew it was a wedding. 8 April 2024. He was trying to teach you something, Mormons, of when the latter days will be with the 3 days of darkness. You know, from the exodus of that man like Moses